Women's engagement in the gig economy. This session is co-curated in partnership with the IWWAGE, an initiative of Lead Kriya University. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Ms. Sona Mitra, Director Policy and Research, IWWACE. May I request her to please join us on stage. We warmly welcome Ms. Anvesha Ghosh, Research Fellow and Program Lead, Institute of Social Studies Trust. A warm welcome to Ms. Bhavya Sharma, Director of Communications and ESG, Urban Company. A very warm and hearty welcome to Ms. Priya Anand, Co-Founder and Chief Customer Officer, Life Circle Health Services Private Limited. We warmly welcome Ms. Pallavi Madhok, Vice President, Advisory Services, South Asia, Women's World Banking. So very warm welcome to all of you. And I now hand it over the session to Ms. Sona Mitra to take the session forward and lead us into this discussion.
Very warm welcome to all of you, and thanks to Access for giving IWAGE always this opportunity. We are IWAGE, the Institute for Works with Advanced Gender Equality. We are part of the Lead Action Research Center in Kriya University, and we are based out of Delhi. I'm very thankful to all the panelists who agreed to be part of this very exciting panel. I'm thinking it's going to be exciting. I'm taking over the role of Ms. Sachiwala, who couldn't make it due to some very urgent business. And I'm going to also briefly introduce my very eminent panelists before we get into the nitty-gritties of the session. Anvesha Ghosh, also a dear friend, is a social science researcher with over 15 years of experience in qualitative research, mixed methods research. She has led and been part of several gender and intersectional research projects in India, Nepal and Bangladesh on women's work. She has been at the forefront for developing and managing an online course on gender transformative evaluations. She comes from a very old and established organization, the ISST, which has been a trailblazer in action research for women and work. We have with us who is the VP Advisory Services at the Women's World Banking South Asia. She's the lead of advisory solutions in India. She works with institutions to develop innovative products and solutions that unlock value for both their women customers and their stakeholders. Her prior experience has been in product management and in management consulting. She earned a degree in economics and master, and she's an MBA from the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. We also have with us Ms. Bhavya Sharma, who's the Director of Communications and ESG at the Urban Company, a communications strategist with more than 16 years of experience. And she travels across both B2B and B2C solutions. Her current stint with the Urban Company, she has been instrumental in setting up the communications and ESG at the Urban Company, the functions at the organization. As part of the ESG mandate, she's involved in partner enablement and initiatives ranging from improved earnings and social security benefits to training and skilling. And then we also have Ms. Priya Anand from Life Circle Health Services, who is a graduate of IRMA and INSEAD Social Entrepreneurship Program, co-founder of the Life Circle Health Initiative, Health Services Private Limited in India, and she's been operating from 2013 and has become a platform in the last 3 years
very successful one, providing home care solutions for elderly care across India, in several parts of India. She has been designing healthcare solutions for low-income families. She's a certified home healthcare assessor and an international fellow in palliative medicine. Um, Priya aims to bring global expertise in aging at home to India to benefit its growing senior population, especially those who cannot afford care. Now, having this very eminent and diverse set of speakers gives me an opportunity as an entry point to this session, where we are talking about promoting women in gig and platform work, especially in the platform work, the digitally enabled one. We have been working on the issue of women's economic empowerment and augmenting women's labor force participation necessarily in the context of declining labor force participation. In the future of work, the platforms emerge as potential job creation and job creators for women, and sustaining them, it has its own advantages and disadvantages, and which the panelists are going to talk about. But the context at the Access Livelihoods Summit, where we partner on this in this session, is mainly to understand that not only what are the opportunities that are being created in these platform work for engaging women, are they sustainable, are they also the kind of livelihoods that we are talking about, which can be digitally enabled, is it scalable, what kind of challenges do they face, and what are probably some of the solutions, which is why we have this diverse panel of researchers, practitioners, solution providers, and the actors. And therefore, I'm going to start the session today with my first question to Anvesha. And to the panelists, we are going to do two rounds. In the first round, I'm going to ask a little bit of a generic question to each of you, and you'll get 5 to 6 minutes as an opening remarks on that. And then we'll do a second round, and then we can open up to a discussion with if time permits. So my first question to Anvesha is that I know you have been working in this digital gig platform, women workers especially, for a very long time. If you could please tell us about the experience that you have had in terms of your research, to understand whether these opportunities seem realistic, seem sustainable, and why is it that women have been flocking towards some of the platforms, and what are the challenges that they have faced in that?
Uh, Thank you, Shona, and thank you for inviting me to this panel. I think it's a very interesting panel, and I'm here to learn as well. I think our research, we were one of the first organizations that did a multi-sectoral research of women workers in the platform economy. So we looked at domestic workers, beauty workers, cab drivers, and food delivery, and specifically the gendered experiences. Uh, to start with, I think we need to understand that platforms are not homogeneous. They are different. There are differences based on size, on the kind of designs they are doing, sectorally, within sector, across sectors. So sometimes it's very difficult when one says a platform, you would just imagine a very popular platform, and but it's not so, and hence the differences are much layered, much varied. Women's experiences are hence also different and much varied. Having said that, we see the trend that women continue to be in very gendered roles, which is what you find them doing offline as well. So there is obviously big numbers flocking towards beauty work and wellness work, not so many numbers, say, for delivery purpose. Now, why is it? I think that is a vital question. And that also will bring in the barriers and challenges. I think, because this is something that you are comfortable with, there is a sort of recognition that yes, it's women's work, women do beauty work, and then, or maybe domestic care work. I think care work is another very essential area that you see a number of women, especially from very poor households, flocking towards. Um, having said that, there is also skills that you need to have. So again, within that layer of women, and when I say women, again, they're not homogeneous, just like platforms are not homogeneous. We need to understand where are they coming from and which sector are they flocking. So if you are a beauty worker, you will need to have some amount of resources in your hand to access that platform in the first place, some collateral. Similarly, for something like a delivery thing, you will need to have a vehicle of your own because you need to be mobile, which most women do not have. And for example, if you're going for care work, domestic workers are often do not have skills as such. There were initiatives by the government to skill women, but there is I think, a wide skill gap between what the market demand is and what there is actually. And I think that itself is a challenge. And for many platforms also, skilling is and reskilling as per the market requirement is a huge investment that platforms do as well. And that's a challenge for both ends then. How do you find a bridge in between? So as I say, as they're not homogeneous, then why is it that they're not going to other platforms in larger numbers when technically platforms are flexible, offer flexible jobs? I think algorithms are also important. How do you understand algorithms? When we talk about flexibility, flexibility can be yes on certain hours, on certain days for a certain sector of work, but it not necessarily means that you can just switch on and switch off anytime, because that would mean either you are going to lose out on incentives, which often happens, especially in cab driving, because incentives are on number of rides you have completed, distances you have completed, the algorithm is going to measure it. But as a woman, I have unpaid care work, I have safety issues on my mind, my family is not very okay with me driving after 6, I need to return home, so I lose out on that incentive. So actually, gender pay gap is another vital issue that has followed from the offline to the new platform economy as well. I mean, consistently there's literature, there is enough studies that are pointing towards vitally quite a big pay gap with what women earn within sectors which are technically gender neutral as per the platform. So these are, I think, some of the challenges that one sees. Um, and lastly, I think it's also important to understand that besides resources, your technical skilling and resources are also important. We have the gender digital divide. Women do not often own smartphones. If they do own smartphones, our recent study has shown that both men and women actually access the same app in a very different manner. So, there is that gender difference as well that one needs to
Anvisha,
look at.
we'll
Yeah.
come to this part of
Okay.
digital access as a
Okay.
challenge in the
Yeah.
next round.
All right.
So I would like to go
Yes.
to Bhavya with the start. Sorry to interrupt, but I think this is something that we'll spend some more time in the next round. Bhavya, coming to you, you represent one of the very successful and the largest aggregator companies. And you have also seen a increased spate of women joining urban company as service partners. um, what has worked for you, like if you could actually tell us, and we have partnered with you, in fact on studies we are continuous, I mean we continue to partner with you working on all of these questions, but if you could explain what has worked for you in terms of sustained engagement of women with the platform. So if you could tell us that positive part of the story, it would be really nice.
Yeah, thanks, Sona. Also, thanks to the organizers for having me here. I'm glad Anvesha went first. She kind of set the ground for me to answer some of the questions as well. Um, so, first of all, Urban Company, right? I don't know how, I hope all of you here know what Urban Company is, but just a one line introduction. We're a home services marketplace. We were founded in 2014. We've completed close to 10 years, more, a little over 10 years. And we provide home services to consumers at their doorstep as per their convenience, right? So that makes us why it makes us a marketplace, because when you book a service, we send a trained professional from our end to your place and deliver those services. So that solves consumer needs. What about partner needs, right? So that's where ESG, the vertical one of the verticals I head, comes in. We look at partner enablement from a lens of four pillars. So there's increased earnings, specifically middle class earnings, wealth creation, training and skilling, and social security protection measures. I'll delve slightly into each of them and a few more points. I hope I'll be within the time limit. So first one being in middle class earnings, right? So that is one of our big commitments to our partners. We want our partners to earn well, to have to also rise up in their station in life. And how we're ensuring that is, and the best part is we're doing it extremely transparently. We are perhaps the only company globally as a marketplace to put out our earnings index all every 6 months out there for people to know what our partners are earning at a monthly on an average, right? So our latest earnings index showed us that partners delivering 30 services in a month, that's roughly one service a day, roughly 1 to 2 hours, they're earning close to 30,000 rupees a month. And our top 20% performing partners are earning close to 45,000 rupees a month. That shows the power of the promise of the platform. That also shows why our partners continue to work with us. And this is across genders. There's no pay gap, gender wage gap, essentially. In fact, the women on our platform earn at an hourly earnings level or an average order value level 23% more than men. So I mean that we find extremely fascinating. Of course, at a monthly level, when you average it out, men are able to spend more time on the platform, and therefore the gross earnings become higher. But at a unit level, women are earning more than men. That says a lot. Second is the training and skilling. For us, to be able to deliver a superlative consumer experience means our partners need to know exactly what the trends are very well equipped with the tools, with the products, and everything else that goes in. So when our partners join the platform, they have to undergo a 5 to 10 day training program depending on which trade they've chosen. And for women, it's typically between 7 and 10 days, depending also on their experience with beauty and spa services. And during this training is free. The cost is borne completely by the company. So we are investing serious amounts of money, and we've been doing that for over the years, right? And at the end of the assessment, during the training, they also get a certificate from NSDC partner with whom we have an MOU. And so this certificate is available to them for their entire life, and is acceptable across India, which is usually a rarity in the services domain. The second piece to it would be also the constant upscaling opportunities that we provide to our partners. Whenever there's a new product launch or there's new technology or tools that are coming into the industry, we also expose our partners to those facilities and options. Now, one important piece that Anvesha had mentioned was on collateral required for women to enter the workforce. I think that was a fabulous point, and I just want to answer that when they are when women are joining urban company, we realize that barrier to entry, where and we solve that through our partnerships with NBFCs. So when they're joining the platform, they're undergoing training, and when they want to start work on the platform, beauty does require certain kits, certain products, certain tools to be able to go live on the platform. And that support, if a partner is does not have the finances at that time, we provide through our NBFC partners, and we also underwrite that. So that becomes a very significant support system for the women to start work without thinking about what's holding them back. Other aspects within social protection, one is access to credit that I just mentioned, is also access to insurance. We do provide accidental health life insurance to our partners, including both women and men, and certain partners also get a family cover as well. I specifically want to touch on 2 points. One is on the flexibility that's offered to women, at least through urban company. um, Anvesha mentioned that you don't have a switch on or off flexibility option available on platforms. I partly agree with that. At Urban Company, of course, we work slightly differently. We ask partners to give us an estimate at the start of the month. How many days or hours will they be available? Short-term absence or long-term absences, or we capture that information. It doesn't have to be absolute clarity on how many, I mean, which days you are available or not, but just a ballpark figure of your availability that helps us match supply and demand better, right? So once we have that, and there is additional flexibility and emergency passes available to partners, so that they're able to manage their home and their work better. Um, the other thing is on the safety aspect that I wanted to touch upon, especially with women and home services. Safety is critical. We do have certain protocols in place. Of course, when we are training the partners, there is entire safety module that we cover, but we also have an SOS button on the app. We have fleet on ground. We have a 24 by 7 women's helpline solely focused on women. We also have a trust and safety team, a separate team within the company that is catering to any and all requests that come in, serious requests that come in. We do capture all of that. And we also look at safety from the lens of how women partners rate customers. So as consumers, while you get to rate partners, our partners also get to rate you. And if we see that a partner has rated any particular customer poorly, we deep dive, we keep a track, we deep dive if other women partners have also done that. Then first, if you have, if the partner has rated them poorly, we do not match that partner to that customer again. We assume that there may be some discomfort, and we do not want our partners to go through that again. Secondly, if we do more tracking and we see some more partners have done that, then we take certain actions at our end. Right? So that's how we are protecting and the rights of our partners in some sense, and also providing them a safe working place.
Thank you, Bhavya. Hello. Yeah, that was interesting. That was actually very, very not only interesting. It's very, very insightful. And I remember that the first study, in fact, the one of the first IWIJ Urban Clap evidence generation, actually talked upon this entire challenge of flexibility, the challenge of safety, and of course some social security. And it's great to know that it has been working. The company has been working on that. And thank you so much for bringing all of those into the discussion. Priya, I turn to you. Urban Company is a very big company, and Life Circle Health Services has been there. You have been an entrepreneur yourself, a care entrepreneur for that, carepreneur for so many years. You transitioned from a physical into an online platform based operations in the last few years. Um, and you have been specializing in providing home care solutions to the elderly. What has been your journey? I mean, as a small scale platform aggregator, how do you manage to keep your business on platforms alive? What is the model that you follow? How do you engage your partners and service providers? If you could take us through your journey, that would be very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you, Shona. Thank you very much. Yeah. So I represent Life Circle Health Services. So I'll talk briefly about the problems that we are trying to solve. The first problem is that it's not a problem; it's an opportunity. 138 million seniors in India want to age at home. And if you look at a significant percentage of them, um, as the age progresses, they are in requirement of support for many kinds of activities going on the spectrum that goes on to where they become, have significant challenges with activities of daily living. So, a corresponding question is when somebody requires care, who's the person that is taking care of them? And in most cases, as you would agree, the responsibility of care is on the women, and there is data to prove that a significant percentage of women drop out of workforce because they're taking care of seniors. So that is the second. And the third thing is when you look at what is happening with respect to people, workers who enter the care economy, you see that out of the 18,000 odd training partners, training institutions that Government of India has, only 11 of them cater to geriatric caregiving. So you see that there is a significant gap in the requirement versus the workforce that we are creating. And as a result of this, only 3% of the market actually is handled by organized players. 97% of the market is operated by informal players. And the consequence of this for care workers is that there are significant deficits in availability of decent work, decent and safe work. So that is where Life Circle comes in with two parts. One is where Life Circle works with the seniors to provide home health care and employ caregivers. And we have a not-for-profit called Center for Caregiver Training and Development that focuses solely on the mandate of training young people who want to become geriatric caregivers to become one. So these two organizations work together, And like Shona rightly said, we started out being a care enterprise. We always had technology platform because, when you're providing services in 30 homes, imagine, you cannot talk about quality unless you have real-time information about what's happening in the location, right? So technology was always a very integral part of what we did. But before COVID happened, it is technology and life cycle relation is like pre-COVID and post-COVID kind of facing. So pre-COVID, our technology was focused mostly on the seniors, understanding the seniors, their conditions, care plan, bringing in data that can help us improve the care for them. And it was internally based. So we were using the software was being used in-house. Post-COVID, we realized that the application of technology needs to be much more widespread and outward looking. And two or three changes facilitated this. One is, I think, in terms of acceptance of health as a service being delivered at home became much more acceptable from a population point of view. People also started thinking about unnecessary hospital visits as possibilities where they could be exposed to infections and things like that. So change in health seeking behaviors happened post COVID. The second thing that happened was very clear telemedicine guidelines that came up were introduced by the government of India during the COVID. And there was a third change that happened, which is basically the digital payment and overall comfort of people in accessing different kinds of services digitally. So taking on this cue, what Lifecycle did was actually create 4 applications: one for the seniors and their families, that is available. All these are available on the Play Store. Second one for the health workers. Our caregivers are all health workers, so that is how we look at them. We don't think of them as care workers because it's a fine line between domestic work and a healthcare work. And I'll talk a little bit about the challenges we face there. And so those are that is the second app. A third app is for the supervisors, and a fourth app is a very interesting learning app. And to the conversation today, I think what is interesting is the healthcare professional app and the learning app. Now, what has been our experience over the last decade, and particularly over the last 3 years of running this platform? It's very interesting. What are some of the challenges? And it's amazing how much of similarity there is in the problem that we face and the kind of solutions that we can think about. So one, I think, is when you're talking about people who want to become geriatric caregivers, it is most of this is women. We have worked with over 6,000 women over the course of last decade, and 76% of them are women, and most of them are in the age group of 19 to 22. So it is a very vulnerable age group that we are talking about. So it is a lot of concern and anxiety both for the person and also for the family to send this person out. And most of our workers are migrant. So all these three things together, the fact that she's a girl, that she's migrating to a place, it makes it very difficult for the family to handle their anxieties. So there is an entire set of activities that are required to actually pre-work that is required to pitch this as a professional work, to pitch this as a healthcare work, and to tangibly tell the family member that this is the process through which your child will go through. So building that transparency in a very accountable manner is what our technology platform did. So that is pre-work. So when they train, and mind you, for us, we think of ourselves as a digitally enabled care enterprise, which means, why I say that is that there are a lot of processes that are actually in-person processes. So technology is an enabler for us rather than being a just standalone. So we do not have seniors or caregivers that we have not met face to face. Every single senior and every single caregiver that we have, we meet face to face. So the first thing I talked about was working around the anxieties. The second thing is about the fear that you will end up being a domestic worker. Now, how do you allay this fear? By having a contract that is very clearly written, and by enforcing the contract to ensure that this person is used as a geriatric healthcare worker and not as a domestic worker. And that distinction may look very fine to us, but every single caregiver that walks in through my door doesn't want to be a maid. If she wanted to be a maid, she wouldn't be at the door of life support. So that. Third thing is around the accountability, because this is a group of young women, vulnerable women, who are often don't receive that accountability. When we go for a job, we expect accountability. We want to know why did we receive certain deductions in our payment. So when they go for care work, they do not have that kind of accountability. That kind of accountability building through our application where the caregiver has access to her attendance linked wage. So she knows that this is the attendance she has found and she knows that this is the wage. If there are any deduction, she knows this is the deduction. So there is complete transparency on what is the amount of money she receives. And the fourth thing that Bhavya also spoke about, which is absolutely non-negotiable, is safety. Personal safety is very important, particularly for girls. It becomes very important. We have clear protocols. We have an emergency button on the application. We have a button that can where they can raise an alarm, and we have a team that handles any kinds of emergencies. And if when in doubt, we are on the side of caution for the caregiver. And the first step for us is to evacuate, no matter what. We don't get into the details of who said what, who did what. We evacuate the person, so that gives the person a lot of assurance. And the last area of challenge and opportunity is building pride in this work. We cannot build a workforce if the workforce doesn't feel pride in this. And how do you build pride in this work, in doing this work? Because they are doing a very important job, mind you, and they are freeing the time of family, women in the family, to pursue their job or hobby in doing what they're doing. So how do you create a path for them? How do you build their knowledge in an asynchronous manner using technology? So those are some of the things that we do.
Thank you so much, Priya. This was very, very insightful, very useful for us to know. I'm now going to go to our last speaker, Pallavi, who comes from Women's World Banking, which has had a lot of experience in providing financial inclusion solutions to women entrepreneurs. And I think Pallavi is going to bring in something a little different from what we are talking about. I mean, gigs are not only about platform based, and I think she wants to talk a little bit about non platform based gigs and the operational challenges and solutions. So, over to you, Pallavi.
Thanks a lot, Sonat, and thank you, iWage and Access, for having me here. I'm always excited to be part of an all-women's panel. So thank you. Okay, so I wanted to widen the conversation a little bit. As you said, to non-platform-based gigable work, because it's 3x the size of platform-based gigable work, and of course they're not as well supported as by organizations like yours. And in particular, I wanted to focus on financial services, because financial services, or doing gigable work in financial services is large, it's respectable, it's increasing, and it's not limited to urban India. It's pretty much all India. It can provide a lot of opportunities in semi-urban and rural India too. And I'm talking about jobs like being a BC agent, a bank agent, or being a BC Sakhi, or being an LIC, the recent Bima Sakhis that they're coming up with. And these are all India, or even CRPs. And we've done a lot of work with fintechs on how they can use women in rural and semi-urban areas to become merchant aggregators. And more importantly, these women in general are really good in financial services. They're very good RMs, relationship managers, and of course, there's a large downstream effect in financial inclusion when women are agents. So, in this industry in particular, if you want to expand this industry, some of the challenges that all of you mentioned are very valid, but mobility being one of the biggest, because definitely in semi-urban and rural India, there is very little public transport also. And you really cannot, I mean, with the lack of public transport and you don't have access to your own mobility, it really hampers your customer access to customers and the income you earn. And a lot of the agents who are unsuccessful are primarily unsuccessful because they don't have access to mobility. And of course, these have social. There's a lot of, in Tamil Nadu, for example, the women I'll take an example of Indian Bank. We work with them across India. And in Tamil Nadu, the BC Sakhis in some of the districts, 75% of them were women, and they were all using bikes to cover the entire Gram Panchayat. But the same bank, you go to Jharkhand or to North India, less than 10% of women are agents. So and having access to mobility, there's a lot of, and I'll come to that later. How finance can be an enabler, but these opportunities, though they are there and they exist, a lot of women are not aware of these opportunities. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in just increasing awareness of such opportunities at the Gram Panchayat level, at the district level. And we do a lot of recruitment camps for such organizations to help women be aware of opportunities in this field. Once they're aware, there's a setup capital. Now, in the banking industry, setup capital can range from 10,000 rupees to 60,000 to 80,000 rupees also, because some banks have a full a full computer, a printer, a biometric device, but some could just operate with a smartphone. So there's no standardization, and there are different operating models. So our first getting a standardized cheaper operating for women can really help, because women don't have access to capital easily. Then once they get onboarded, of course, technical training is never a problem, because women are very good, on the smartphones. They pick up everything very smart. Yes, there is technical troubleshooting, but that's common for both men and women, so that's never a challenge. But the challenge is always in how do I grow my market, because they don't know basics on how do I market my services, how do I get more customers. And then they're not provided enough product options, or they're operating in very few product options. So how do they grow their income, and so that their income doesn't get stagnated? So this requires some amount of support from the overall ecosystem and the banking system and financial service providers, so that they are giving them additional opportunities to grow their income. So these are some of the challenges women face in this sector, and I'll talk about enablers a little later.
Thank you, Pallavi. Actually, this opens up the discussion to a different level, but definitely when you talk about solutions and financial services, I think a lot of it is becoming technology dependent, and digital inclusion is so important right now. Even the frontline workers, the cutters that you mentioned, they are all getting tablets and smart devices to start operating in the rural areas. So it's very important that we bring in technology, even if not platform work, but definitely technology into this discussion. I think I'll go back to Anvesha and ask her around that point where I stopped her about the challenges of digital access by women to actually access these platform work. And I know she has done very interesting work on looking at how behaviors are very different by men and women across apps. How does that manifest? So it'll be great to hear from you, Anvesha, but we'll give 3 minutes to each of the speakers in this round in the interest of time.
Yeah, as Sona mentioned, that we recently concluded a study of how there's a gendered experiences of using the same app is quite interestingly different as well. One app is, and one of the, I think the major concerns is also safety or technology-based, gender-based violence, and that is also a reality for a lot of frontline workers who are now increasingly becoming digitalized. When you're in a rural sector, you do end up having to give your personal numbers, because people might call you up in the middle of the night, for example, ASHA workers. So but then you also see a lot of surveillance happening on these apps, or some sort of people sending you pictures, things like that. So it is definitely a challenge, I think, not just offline but online, and I think that is something that really needs to be looked at. The other thing is also about digital inclusion is also, while we do have a smartphone, it is often shared. So it's in a household, it's never your own phone, especially women's phone. I think the panel we had last week also spoke about shared phones. A woman's phone is always a shared phone. So even though it's your own phone, your time to use the smartphone is much lesser than if it's a man's phone. And that also hinders your digital capacities of learning, maneuvering, etc. And that's why digital skills continue to be very important, and the time that you spend on your phone is very important for women to get adapt at using smartphones. I think I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing those in. And great to circle back to Bhavya. You have integrated flexibility concerns within your business model, social security, also safety, of course. But how do you also look at some of the things that we have been talking about, that, how do you diversify the way women engage with your platforms. They engage in several specific services, like, right? But you provide services which are very segregated across men and women. I mean, what is your experience? Is there any hope in terms of using platforms to, diversify occupational patterns for women?
Thanks for that question, Sona. I think that's something that we have also been working at internally, not made great leaps of success or progress yet, but definitely some green shoots. But before I come to that, I think there are two major things that need to happen for women to take up non traditional roles. And first would be a dramatic change in societal mindset. And that cannot be driven by one or two companies. It has to be society, it has to be a tremendous government push and overall people mindset, right? Why do we still don't want women to study, for example? I mean, it just starts from schooling itself. The moment you're taking away some of those basic rights, you're also then ensuring that they don't succeed in life. So the more doors we open for them, the more options they'll have, and probably explore traditional, non-traditional roles as well. Uh, Now we have in our organization tried building teams of pod structures or small teams of women partners who can do take up, say, AC repair services or painting and other similar roles. What we've and wherever we've seen success, and it's been very small pockets, very numbers I would not even want to say right now. And the success has always only been in those among those women who've had a family, I mean, exposure within the family towards those areas. For example, we have an RO technician. Fortunately or unfortunately, my namesake. So she is called Bhavya Sharma. Her husband used to be an RO technician with us. Unfortunately, during COVID, he passed away. But uh, all that time during their married life, she was seeing that RO unit at her home. She was constantly exposed to the parts, to the devices, or to tools. And so when he passed away, she wanted to take up that role with us. And we gave her that entire training. We provided all the tools. And she's one of our top performing partners in the South market within the RO segment itself. But she was able to do that because she was seeing that every single day, right? Similarly, we have a team of female AC technicians working with their brother. Uh, Again, that's happening because there's enablement from the family itself, and they're being able to see that device how it works. They're not scared of it, they're not afraid of it, and they're willing to take that chance. So the more families who help expose within their family, I mean within their setup, bring in these aspects into their daily life, I think women will be more open to trying this out. The other is, I think the second big thing would be destigmatizing gig work. I think somehow there is this narrative that oh my god, gig work, that's horrible. It's highly exploitative. I mean, you'll hear all sorts of negative things about it. There are too many positives of this industry which are not talked about. I think that really needs to come out. And frankly, I think platform economy has raised the floor. We don't really understand that, but if even if it's, say, a Zomato or Swiggy, the earnings that partners make vis-a-vis a security guard in your society, right, and the social benefits that they have insurance, they have access to credit, multiple things. We're raising the floor without being recognized for it. I think that mindset change and that destigmatization of work itself is extremely critical.
Thank you so much, actually. First of all, for sharing that those very personal stories, and also bringing in your first point about societal change in norms, behaviors, mindsets, ideas, and the role of the state. And Priya, I intended to ask you something different, but because we have this, and I don't want to put you in a spot, but I know you have talked about this enough. So, if you can tell us that in this entire aggregator business models, there is a very important role that the government has to play in terms of creating some policy regulations or some amount of designs. So, if you can tell us one or two very important things that the government can do for this, and something that Bhavya was saying, that how to remove the stigma from gig companies. So, if you can talk about that a little bit. Um,
Thank you, Sona. So I think in terms of what the government can do with respect to stigma, I'm not sure. Probably they will have to take it as a mandate, and hopefully, because social change cannot come from from just a government saying something, right? So there have to be narratives that are built with people being shown in alternate professions. So for us at Life Circle, a big challenge is the feminization of care work, whether it is a family carer or a professional carer. It is thought to be work of a woman. And I've had some colleagues tell me that no, you can't get males to train as caregivers. And for us as an organization, breaking that myth is very important. And I think there the governments can probably play a role. They are not stopping them from going on and doing the skills training, but there can be more engagement. But I think where the government can actually help is in terms of entitlements of these people, migrant workers. Because many of these migrant workers lose all their entitlements when they move across state boundaries. And I've asked this question repeatedly because I think a lot about it, that why should an entitlement change just because a person has moved the boundary? And when we know that, India is a country, it is a single country, right? So when I move from Odisha to Andhra Pradesh, why should I not be able to, why should those benefits that I get, because I hail from a poor family, not be available to me when I move another location? Because the government has a responsibility to pay those costs, right? So this is one place where I think portability of various kinds of entitlements, I think we have to keep on talking about it, and I think it is all of us, when we do this conversation in every single opportunity we have, that is when we will change. And the second part, I think, where with specific reference to seniors, where government can play a big role, is with respect to making care available for them. Because I think today, when enterprises like mine are catering to upper middle income households on the customer side, but the need is same or maybe more dire when it comes to families who cannot afford to pay for it directly. Then how do you support these families? And we have so many community based healthcare work, nutrition work that is available. It's just a matter of putting on that lens of thinking about care support for families. Maybe the configuration of that will be different. Maybe it will not be one-on-one. Maybe it will be community-based in convergence with other departments of health. But I think these are some of the areas where government can play significant role.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think we'll have in the coming days or the years, platforms play a very big role in bringing all that together in front of the government to give them ideas in terms of how to better provide affordable care to households that we need. And technology would play a very important role. The government recognizes that. It's just that we have to show them the way, I think. Pallavi, over to you for your last bit on enablers that you wanted to talk about very briefly, because I've been
Yes.
given this chit.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
totally understand. Yeah, so see, finance is a very important enabler, and there's the banking industry needs to see, this is the most important thing. They need to see the giggable work that women do as a large and addressable market segment, which is why I wanted to increase the definition of, because once they see it as a large addressable segment, then they can come up with products that are suitable for the segment. And women don't just need to earn income, they need to move from livelihoods to economic empowerment, and financial services provides them that. Now, in particular, gigable work means that your income is volatile, and so you need a whole lot of formal financial services to support you to build financial resilience. So products need to be put together: savings, insurance, specifically health insurance, and of course loans. Now, loans in particular, for example, we worked with an organization called Bike Bazaar, which is our investee company also, to provide women who work loans for mobility. But a lot of women are not aware of mobility options and financial services that can assist them in, buying a bike, as simple as that. Because a very silly thing, but dealers are completely male-dominated spaces, and women don't go to bike dealerships. And I don't know how many of us have been to a car dealership to buy our own car at home. Women, right? They're very historically male-dominated spaces. And so if you don't go there, you don't know what options you have. So even though she wants to buy a bike and wants to be mobile, she does not know how where to get finance from. So when we work with Bike Bazaar, it was about how do you really make dealerships feminine spaces, and how can you welcome women so that they can get access to financial services. And then of course, how do you reach them where they are? So how do you work through aggregators, digital aggregators also, and provide them financial services. So a call out to urban company, we are working with them to make sure that there is better access to financial services. So these are some very important enablers.
Thank you so much for bringing this last bit into financial services, into aggregator platforms, how to make it better for the service providers, for the partners per se. I think the bell is also ringing, and I'm really sorry because we do not have time to open up for the questions, but you can always talk to the panelists at tea. And thanks to the audience for very attentively listening to this post lunch session. Thanks so much. Big thank you to the panelists for bringing in such diversity in our discussion. Thanks, everyone.
Perspectives coming from different speakers from very different industries. So thank you all for sharing your thoughts and leading us through that discussion. Before you leave us all, we would like to present a small token of our appreciation and thanks to all of you. Starting with Ms. Sona Mitra, thank you. Our thanks to Ms. Anvesha Ghosh. We thank Ms. Bhavya Sharma. Our thanks to Ms. Priya Anand. And thank you, Ms. Pallavi Madhok. Once again, our sincere thanks to the moderator and the esteemed panelists for this very valuable discussion. May I request you all to please join the front and center for a group photo op. Thank you all. May I request you all to please kindly take your seats back amongst the audience.